today we have as a guest a person who's a member of a commission. Now, this county has a lot of commissions, and we don't know what they all do. And of course, when one comes up that the TV committee doesn't understand, then we quick try to get a member on to tell us all about that commission. That's what we have today. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what do you do?
Okay, well, my name is Art Chapman, and I'm a member of the Civil Service Commission. And the Civil Service Commission is an appointed body, appointed by the Board of Supervisors.
Oh, it's a county civil service commission.
Yes, so we're talking about a county board or a county commission.
Right. Now, but just out of curiosity, is there a city civil service commission too? Do cities have them?
I believe there might be. Cities and counties both have civil service commissions if they have a civil service system.
That's what we have to find out about.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a member of the county, San Luis Obispo County Civil Service Commission.
Correct.
How many members are there?
There are 5 members, and each of those members are appointed by a separate county supervisor who is elected by the people.
So they represent the 5 districts.
Exactly.
And how long a term do they have?
Normally, well, our terms are 4 years. We're appointed, unless we come in the middle of a term, and as I was appointed to replace somebody who had to retire for health reasons. And so I was appointed for a 3-year term, and then I was reappointed recently for a 4-year term.
Uh-huh. Now, if you're the county of San Luis Obispo Civil Service Commission, okay, now,
Right.
Does the city of San Luis Obispo have one?
I believe they do, although I'm not really familiar with
Okay, because I'm not going to ask you about theirs. But
right.
You said the
just
city
about the county.
or a county would have it if they have a civil service system.
Right.
That's the next thing we need a definition for. What is a civil service system? Ooh, and that's very hard to say, audience, civil service system.
Civil service system is specific to counties and cities and other public agencies that have a civil service ordinance. And that, in the county's case, in 1964, the people voted in a civil service system. And so after that happened, then the county establishes ordinances or rules, and one of those rules was to establish a commission that has the authority to oversee it.
Okay, we have a system that was voted in, a commission that oversees the system.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what does, well, do you need special qualifications to be on this commission?
No, you really don't have any special qualifications. You just have to be a citizen of the county. You have to be a resident of the county and part of the electorate. And that's the only real qualification.
Okay, now, we have a commission, we have a system that was voted in. What is it? What is the civil service that they voted to have? What did they vote to have?
Well, maybe we could start with, I could tell you a little bit about the mission, what we're supposed to do, what we're trying to do. Well, first of all, it's our job to make sure that the merit system principles of public employment are adhered to in the county.
Okay, now, the merit system of public employment, if there's no civil service, public employment still should be on merit, shouldn't it?
Well, yes, and generally you could say it is, but some counties, we'll just talk about counties because it's simpler.
Uh-huh.
Some counties have a formal system, and some counties have not opted to have a civil service system.
Okay.
So they're covered by the general employment laws that govern all employment, not just public
What you're saying
employment.
is civil service has to do with employees.
Exactly.
Okay, so an employee of government,
Yes.
not an employee of the grocery store,
Right.
but employee of the county government,
Correct.
because the county voted to have civil service,
Right.
is part of a civil service system.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so it covers county employees. All county employees?
No. The principles, the merit system principles cover all county employees, but the civil service system covers those employees who are part of the classified service.
Okay, now classified service, would you have that if you didn't have civil service?
No, you wouldn't. You have to have a civil service system to have people in the classified service. So there are people who are covered under civil service in the county, employees of the county, and there are employees of the county who are not covered by civil service, and those are called at-will employees.
Okay, now, if a county does not have a civil service commission, then the county's employees are all just employees like grocery store employees or anybody else, is covered by their union. Does civil service have a union?
Well, you can have unions within a civil service system.
You can,
yes,
so you can have civil service system and unions.
This count and San Luis Obispo County does. So several unions.
So the employees of the county belong to unions and are under the Civil Service Commission, the civil service system.
Right.
You can see why our group was having confusion.
Well, it's, most people don't know much about it unless you're a civil service employee, unless you're a county employee or a state employee.
Right.
Because it has to do with the internal workings of the county and not something that citizens normally see.
We don't confront it, except sometimes in a movie or television program, they'll say, he's civil service level 3. Is that the word they use, level or class? I mean, I've heard there's levels or there's numbers, grades.
Well, in this particular county, yeah, sometimes you'll have a position that'll, let's say, a wastewater worker.
Okay.
That the wastewater worker may be a wastewater worker 1 or a 2 or a 3, depending upon their level of experience and qualifications.
Now, what makes them go from a 1 to a 2? And the 1 to 2 is only within civil service. Has nothing to do with the union?
Well, unions have labor agreements with the county, with county management, and they control the terms of employment, working hours and working conditions and things like that. What the county civil service system does is it has a whole structure for defining jobs, and we call them. We put people in what we call classifications, and we have job descriptions for those. And so, if a person is the lowest level worker, say within a classification.
Class 1.
Yeah, class 1. Then they may have minimum, they may just need minimum kinds of qualifications to get in. Maybe 6 months of experience or a year of experience to qualify for a job. But then in order to be a worker 2, you have to have added skills and experience in order to make it up to that level.
Okay, now, why would they want to? Other than to say, I'm a 2 and you're a 1.
Well, there's extra money. Always extra money that goes with that.
Okay, now the places that don't have civil service, does an employee just gets a plain old raise and gets?
Well, not necessarily. You could still have the same. You could still have the same kind of structure: worker 1, worker 2, worker 3, and there would still be a you would still get an increase in pay if you went up from a worker 1 to a worker 2.
Now, is there an advantage to being under the civil service system? Obviously, the county voted, not the county employees, the county people just voted that they wanted their county employees to be under the civil service system. Do the county employees ever vote not to?
Well, county employees don't have a choice in the matter now because it was voted in by the people. The only way that a civil service system could be changed materially would be by the people. You would have to go back to the people and you would have to have them vote on the changes.
And this was a county vote, not a statewide, not one of those propositions that the state votes on. This was a county proposition.
It was a county proposition in way back, 1964.
1964, yeah. For some reason, and is it, well, people are happy with it, obviously. Otherwise, they start a petition drive to get another proposition to stop it.
It has some benefits. In one way, it's a constraint. It is a constraint on management in that because people in civil service have what's known as a property right to their job, it also requires that if you take a job action against an employee, you suspend them for something they did or failed to do, you discharge them from their job, you take their job away. If you take a job benefit away, then like that, then you have to give them due process.
They have you to complain to.
Exactly.
Is what you're saying. Like
exactly.
With sexual harassment, when an employer sexually harasses, they go to the Human Relations Commission, something like that?
Well, it comes to us.
Oh, it goes to you.
It can go in a lot of places. If a person complains of sexual harassment, they have a choice of coming to us. They have a choice of going to the Fair Employment and Housing Department of the state, or they could go to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission of the federal government, or they could file a lawsuit.
So if a county employer gets upset with an employee, they go to you and then if the employee gets upset, they go to you. I mean, you're the mediation for both of them.
Well, yes, but usually what happens is an employer, a department head in this case, will take an action to discipline an employee, and the employee decides that they don't agree with that decision. And so they have the opportunity then to appeal that to the Civil Service Commission. So we sit as an administrative law body, like a group of judges, and we listen to the case, we listen to both sides, we act as a neutral hearing body, and we listen to the case, we listen to the evidence, we read all of the evidence, we listen to testimony, just like almost like a court trial, and we render a decision based upon the evidence that we've heard.
Now, if a county head, one of the people who's not an employee,
well, an accounting department head is an employee,
but they're not civil service.
But they're not civil service.
So they don't complain to you if they're fired.
No, they can't complain to us. No, they have a contract with the county supervisors, and the county supervisors can discharge them, say, we no longer need your services or want your services, and then whatever the contract provisions are will take into account that they're firing. There may be severance pay and things like that.
Well, we're going to take a break now from Art Chapman, who's talking about the County Civil Service Commission, and we'll be right back. Well, we are back with Art Chapman of the County Civil Service Commission. Thank you, Art. First half, you gave me a lot to think about. Now I've got some more to ask you about.
Okay.
Do you report to anybody? Are you responsible to anybody?
Well, we're appointed by the Board of Supervisors, and after they appoint us, we act independently, and we don't really report directly to anybody. If as a result of a hearing, one of the individuals, either the department or the employee, doesn't like the decision, then they can appeal that to the Superior Court. So
to the Superior Court.
Yeah, so the courts really oversee us.
It's the court. Now, is there a statewide association of civil service commissioners?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Now, is there anything exciting that you've ever had? We don't mention any names. What is something that you've had to deal with that's interesting without telling us any specifics?
Well, yeah.
Typical issue, for example.
Occasionally, of course, everything relating to personnel matters is confidential. So when we have a hearing, most times the hearing is closed, and only people who are witnesses or the principals are directly involved, or the attorneys. When we have open meetings, and we have those on a regular basis, we have monthly meetings, and we have special meetings. And during the monthly meetings, those are usually open, and they're controlled by the rules that, for any public meeting. So members of the public can come and visit.
You're invited.
Yes, and can see exactly what we do.
Okay. Now, is there a state civil service commission for the state employees?
There is a state personnel board that acts in a similar way, but of course it's a huge system, so it's much more complex.
Well, I mean, I've heard of taking the civil service exam, for example. That's an expression I've heard. But would you do that at the state level as well as the county or city level? Or?
Oh, yes. state employees take exams for their jobs.
But not civil service exams.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So the state does have a civil service.
Oh, the state has a civil service system.
Okay, that's what I meant. They have a civil service system.
They do. They do.
But not every city or every county does.
Not necessarily. You don't have to have, a county doesn't have to have a civil service system.
You said we voted ours in here in 1964.
Right. Even though it was, but many times a county or a city, because people are public, the folks that are going to be employees are going to be hired usually through tests and stated qualifications. Normally, that's the way it works. But in the county, in San Luis Obispo County, that's very formalized under a civil service system. So we're responsible for prescribing the rules that are followed by the Human Resources Department in hiring people.
So the civil service test is a test here in this county. There's a test.
Tests are developed specifically for each job.
For each job, not just to be a civil service person.
Right. First of all, the people who come in have to meet the minimum qualifications for the job. So people can't just get the job because they know somebody. They have to be qualified for the job that they're applying for, or they don't continue in the job seeking process.
I mean, the reference that I heard made was that somebody was studying for a civil service exam because they wanted to work for the post office.
Oh, okay, yes.
Now that's federal.
Yes.
So there's a federal civil service also.
There is, yes.
And the exam would be, I assumed there was just a special overall exam for civil service. And once you pass that exam, you become civil service, and then you go on to this and so.
No, it's very job specific.
It would be job specific for the post office.
So the county, for instance, is hiring deputy sheriffs.
That's civil service too.
Oh, yes. And so what they would do is they would put out a bulletin or an announcement that there's a job opening for deputy sheriffs. And then people who are interested would apply. They become applicants. And then the people who apply then have to meet the minimum qualifications for the job. That is, and for that job, the qualifications are minimal for the job because they get trained.
Yes, I see. They don't have to have the training before they apply for the job.
But they have but there are many background requirements that they have to pass in order to continue to qualify. Yes.
But the sheriff himself would not be civil service because he's an elected officer.
Exactly.
So, all the way, everybody but him would be civil service, or?
There are a couple. I think there may be one or two positions under the sheriff that are non-civil service at will, like his chief deputy. I think is not civil service.
And then somebody could get elevated to a not civil service. If they go too high in the hierarchy, they could just become non.
Yes,
then
as a matter of fact, the person who just became the new director of human resources was a civil service employee and working for the chief administrative office, and she competed for the job, and she got the job of director of the Human Resources Department. That's a non-civil service position.
So then she's just under the union?
No, she's under, actually she has a direct, she is responsible to the chief administrative officer who reports then to the Board of Supervisors.
Now, did you have to have special training to understand all this, or is it to give you a book, right? At least you got something, my God.
Well, I guess it helps to, in my case, have a career in civil service. I'm one of the unique people on the Civil Service Commission in that I had my principal part of my career was in Los Angeles County, and I was a human resources administrator.
Okay, so you weren't, but the administrator's not under civil service. You weren't under it.
I wasn't the director. I was.
You were under civil service.
I was an employee of the department.
Well, do you have a special job with our current Civil Service Commission, the county? Do the 5 directors have special?
There are 5 commissioners, and we're co-equal. That is, we all do basically the same thing, except that internally we elect our own president and vice president. And the president presides over all the meetings. Right. And in the absence of the president, the vice president fills in. We all have our own expertise. We bring with us our life experience and our expertise. And everybody currently on the commission was a manager. In one case, a gentleman worked for the state, so he worked in a civil service system. And in my case, I'm the sort of the technical expert, because I was the guy who kind of lived and breathed civil service for 20 years.
Okay, now I serve on a county board, and we have a member from the county counsel's office, an attorney.
Yes.
Sits in on the meetings. Do you have? Are you assigned an attorney for your meetings?
We have our own attorney.
Representative from the county counsel's office.
Exactly.
And you have you have one of their clerks.
No,
with your meetings, or do you have a secretary?
As part of the civil service rules, it's the responsibility of the director of human resources to be our secretary.
Okay, so the meetings would then have you 5 and those 2.
Yes.
That person sitting in as a secretary, and then your minutes are available to the supervisors, I suppose, or actually to the public if somebody wants to read the minutes.
Yes, absolutely.
The ones that don't concern personnel.
Right.
And then you have the county counsel's office there as your legal advisor.
Mm-hmm. We have, and we have either the same or separate legal counsel when we have hearings and appeals. When
you get together with people who are civil service commissions throughout the state, do you have a club? Do you get together and compare about how our county works?
Not that I'm aware of. I've only been a member for just over 3 years, and I haven't participated in any statewide activities.
They don't give you any classes on how to do your job or anything?
Nope. You learn by doing.
Job training.
Yep, on the job.
And it was started to be a help for the employees or for the government? In other words, when the law passed, when the people voted it in, was it intended to be a protection or something for the employee or something for the employer? Who was it aimed to be best for?
Perhaps initially it was aimed at protecting employees, but I think what it does is it protects the citizenry, in all of us, in that because there's a place for employees to go if they have a grievance against management, if they have a complaint, they have a neutral third party to listen to them, then those little problems don't get blown up into big labor disputes. And so because of the work of the commission, partly, there is relative labor peace, and there are very few disruptions in public service that the county provides.
So in a way it's helping the unions, who also, you said the employees have unions.
The employees have unions, and it gives the unions a place to come.
If they have a gripe.
Outside of management, different than management, so that they feel like somebody is listening to them.
All right, now, is there anything you want to throw in that we haven't covered that we should understand about the Civil Service Commission of the county and what you do and how you do it?
Well, I think we've covered it pretty well. I think what's important, at least for me, to let people know about the commission and the commissioners is that we work hard and diligently to see that everybody gets a fair hearing, and that each of us are very independent-minded people, and so we make our own decisions, and then when a decision is made, we vote on it. And sometimes we agree, and sometimes we disagree. But when those decisions are made, we all respect each other for the expertise and the experience they bring.
Now, when you're going to make these decisions, isn't it sort of a personnel hearing that's closed?
It is. A lot of it is, and they're very difficult because you're dealing with people's lives.
That's right. Now, what is decided? You said that you have meetings that are open to the public. Do you have set meeting dates?
We do. It's the fourth Wednesday of the month.
And that's in the county courthouse?
You know, it's in the new county government building
center, right,
on the second floor.
Okay. Now, if somebody were to come to that meeting, what would you be discussing?
Oh, boring stuff usually.
That's what I was thinking. All the good stuff is in private.
Yeah, you might say that.
Yeah.
Okay. But the boring stuff is important to employees. For instance, managers come because they have a reorganization or they have a new job they want added to the list of jobs in the county, or they want to change a job.
That's
and
all
so
in the
they have to
public.
bring that to us, and we review it and then and approve it.
Well, what do you mean change a job? Or
Well,
this would be the public meeting. Somebody would come to and listen to a discussion if they cared, at all about.
Well, let's say.
So give me for instance.
For instance, let's say a human resources analyst. Okay, it was a person who works in the personnel or human resources department and is really responsible to implement all the things that the commission acts on. And if that job changes because of technology or because the job got bigger and more responsible, then the job description gets rewritten and the requirements for the job get rewritten. And they come back to us, we review them and approve them.
I see, so that you would then change the test that you would have to administer if somebody wanted to apply for this job.
Well, we wouldn't do that directly, but the Human Resources Department then would take those requirements and they would develop a test to make sure that the people who applied for the job meet those requirements.
Okay, so they would apply for the job, they'd be a whatever one, it'd be a one level, whatever.
Like a Human Resources Analyst 1.
You don't use the word typist, you don't use the word receptionist,
Well, there aren't many typists anymore. We have administrative assistants.
Right, thank you very much. And that'd be administrative assistant 1, right?
And then there are, yes, there are
levels
levels for that.
And if they want to change their level, they have to take another test, is what you're saying.
That's true.
They don't automatically go up.
Right. But they may also say, you know what, my job is really not a 1, it's really a 2 or a 3. And so they might come to us and appeal and request that we look at the job and say, you know, you're right. I think your job did get more complex, and you deserve to have a level 2 or a level 3 position.
And the rate and the perks and everything that goes with it.
And the perks can go with it, but then they have to go back and qualify for the job. They may have to take a test for their own job.
Well, we're going to try. Thank you very much, Art Chapman.
You're quite welcome.
And thank you for tuning in. I hope you learned something about the County Civil Service Commission, which is probably the same as a city civil service, but different. And another example that the supervisors appoint these men, and if you do your best, we will continue to have good government being the usual and not the unusual. Thank you, and come back.